All right, welcome back to the No Cut Sports Podcast. Today we discuss Devontae Smith celebrity softball game he recently had this past weekend and what I took from that. We also discuss how Jalen Hurts has always been a leader and he's still locked in. Thirdly, we talk about Dallas being in shambles, Lord have mercy. And lastly, we talk about Darius Slay's comments that he made on the Greenlight podcast pertaining to the Philadelphia Eagles going into this season. All that and more on the No Cut Sports Podcast. Let's roll. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the No Cut Sports Podcast with your host, Niall Frazier. And today we got a few things to talk about. But before we get started, could you please like, comment, and subscribe to always catch this vibe, man? Y'all already know. So, first thing I wanted to talk about today was Devontae Smith's celebrity softball game, his third annual softball game that he held in Allentown this past weekend. Some of the things that I took from it, or the biggest thing that I took from it was Jalen Hurts. If you didn't know, he attended. He ended up pitching the whole game, stayed the whole time, signed a whole bunch of autographs for kids and fans, which is great to see, great to hear. There was also a video circulating with him signing his cleats and giving them to a young fan. And also shout out to the cleat. Yo, my man's cleat game crazy. Like those cleats, most of his cleats be fire. So shout out to Jalen Hurts when it comes to them cleats. But just shout out to Jalen Hurts in general, man. He just seems to be locked in this off season. As y'all know how that season ended last year, and then how the Super Bowl ended the year before. It's been a lot of negative comments coming out up against him and the team, but mostly against Jalen Hurts, questioning his leadership, if he can even lead us back to another Super Bowl, which is crazy within itself. Because if you see how the man played in that Super Bowl, man, I don't see how you even had that question. But it was just great to see Jalen Hurts out there having fun with his teammates, fellow players in the NFL. He also posted on his Instagram story him working out. But I seen one picture that really stuck out to me, and it was him working out on the bench, and he's watching Randall Cunningham highlight clips. And I'm like, dog, this boy, he know what he doing. He know what he doing. So, you know how to keep the fans engaged and stuff like that, and know how to hush the haters up. But yeah, man, it seems to be like he's locked in. He also posted the pictures of him working with the players at the rookies at University of Central Florida. Getting some work in that, we had reported about this about a week or two ago, if I'm not mistaken. But it's just good to see that he's getting that work in with the younger guys, because I do remember how he's saying that he wanted to draft players that were ready to play now. That can mean anything, from starting, week one to, stepping in. And you might have to be a starter for 3 to 4 weeks because of an injury or something like that. So it's good to see that, man, because Jalen Hurts is building that rapport. So when they get into a game or they're in practice, he can sit there and be like, "Yo, like I remember what you did here. You need to do this. Like, come on." He can ask for more from these players. You know what I mean? So that's just great to see within itself, man. So I don't really got any problems with Jalen Hurts' leadership skills, but I do know that Jake Rabadiak reported that Jake Rabadiak came out and said that it wasn't so much about his leadership skills, but more or less those last couple of games he had, turnover-wise, they felt like, if he didn't turn the ball over as much, they might have been able to make a run in the playoffs and potentially go back to the Super Bowl. But, who knows? That could be, that's behind us now. But my rebuttal to that would be, and I know he has some costly turnovers and things like that, but I'll put it to you like this. The inexperience, and I've been saying this, the inexperience on both sides of the ball is, I think, what was one of the main key reasons and why our season ended the way that it did. When you don't got experience, you know what I'm saying, being in certain situations and things like that, and then you go get a coach like Vic Fangio with 40-plus years, and then the staff got tons, a decade or 2 decades of years of experience, that matters when you're in, certain situations in football games or in any aspect. So, yeah, man. So it's like you can't really put all the blame on Jalen Hurts. A lot of these players weren't getting schemed open. When they blitzed Jalen Hurts, he had nowhere to go with the football. But it should be more of a testament to the talent that we have on this team to go 11-6 or whatever the record was. And still be able to win that many games, because that's still a decent record. It just looks so bad because we fell off a cliff in them last couple of weeks. So it is what it is, but we do expect better. We do want better from this team. We do want Jalen to stop turning the ball over as much, and that's between him and the coaching staff and stuff like that. But giving him easier reads, whatever the case may be, man. So I'm just looking forward to this upcoming season, man, seeing if he can get back to MVP form, which I think he will. But the leadership thing, the leadership aspect, I don't see what they're talking about when it comes to that, man. And he shows it, like I said, with his actions. He might not be a big talker, but with his actions, he shows it. He makes sure he's out there practicing. He's putting the work in to become a better player and a better person. So with that being said, man, let's roll into what we need to roll into with these Darius Slay comments on the Greenlight podcast. If you don't know what the Greenlight pod is, that's Chris Long's podcast. He used to play for the Eagles, but he had Darius Slay on there. He made a few different comments. The first comment is, and I want to say this because I had just made a recent video on Jalen Carter. It's funny that I was talking about it because I was talking about it for the simple fact that he had commented on Christian's Instagram for the jersey giveaway, and we were trying to get him on the channel and stuff like that. But they were talking about his potential this year, and I had said in my last video that I think he's going to be one of the main focal pieces on that defensive line, interior wise, for the simple fact that he was a problem last year, man. That first half of the season, man, he was having an outstanding season. Now, I don't want to say you hit a rookie wall, but same thing on the defensive side of the ball, man. It was inexperienced, and then you end up switching coordinators, halfway through the season. You can't really expect, you're trying to implement new things, you can't expect too much, to happen or to change. So he did kind of slow down toward the end of the season, but when he was still doing his thing. But at the same time, it's like now you're going into the second year with experience with Jalen Carter. Same thing with some of them other younger guys. Now they have some experience under their belt, and then they got the good coaching behind them. Clint Hurt is not finna play with him. I told y'all this already, man. He wants those guys to be in shape. He talked about molding them. Them being such a young age, he can mold them into the type of players that they need to be. So they're expecting a lot out of Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, a lot of Milton Williams, a lot of those guys on that line, and I think that and I know I'm giving my opinion, but Darius Slay has said that he said in practice they say he sees it. He's one of those. He said he liked to talk. He liked to talk his trash and stuff like that, which I love because I feel like that was an aspect of the game that we were missing last year. With that 49er situation and stuff like that, it was like, I was expecting, y'all in Philly, I thought they was going to put up a fight, but, stuff like that just can't be happening. But that attitude is what we were missing. And then also that play, man, it's like they were just putting one person on Jalen Carter to begin with, and they figured out my man was like that, and they started putting two. But even still, he was still getting through that. So it's like him working, like I said, this off season, getting in better shape, learning more. Like I said, coaching is going to be a big thing for them. They think he's going to have a great season. I think he's going to have a great season. So yeah, but like Darius Slay spoke to the fact, he was like, that man going to be a problem. They think he's going to be like, one of the, if not one of the best defensive linemen for the Eagles, or one of the best defensive linemen to ever play this game. So that's just great news to hear about Jalen Carter. He also talked about, and I'm talking about Darius Slay, he also spoke to the fact, Chris had asked him how they felt about, Vic Fangio. They were talking about in Miami how, he wasn't a likable guy, this, that, and the third, which you can't believe everything that you hear. But Darius Slay said that Vic Fangio is a quiet guy, but he's a detailed guy, detail-oriented. He said he tells you what he's looking for out of this position. He wants you to know other positions. Vic Fangio spoke to that in his press conference when he first press conference with the Eagles this past season. He talked about throwing a lot out the guys and seeing what they pick up, and then moving on from there. So that's good to hear. But Darius Slay also said that he don't care about. He seemed like the coach that he don't care about how much money you make. He said if you ain't doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're gonna get up out of there. So, it is what it is, man. But I do like that aspect because it's like, and no disrespect, I'm not trying to be disrespectful talking about anybody here, but you know, what's been going on with James Bradbury and what he makes, and you know what I mean. And then him not performing on the field, that's kind of what it is. You know what I mean. You would want to see him possibly get benched for somebody else, but he said like Vic Fangio's no BS type of coach. You know, he wants you to know your role, know a couple of different roles, because like he wants you to be versatile as well. So those were great comments to hear from Darius Slay. He also talked about being the oldest in the room too as well. And Darius Slay even spoke to the fact that, you know, he's been slowing down, he's getting older, he's slowing down and stuff like that. So it kind of, and I know I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, but I wonder like what that's starting. Because I know Darius Slay is probably going to start week 1, but I want to know who's going to start alongside him. And then as the weeks go on, like, because depending on who they keep after training camp, cornerback wise, there's so many cornerbacks that we have. It's like, does Darius Slay stay out there, or do they move, you know, Quinyon in and maybe Isaiah Rodgers or whatever the case may be? So that's going to be something to look forward to. Training camp coming up in the next few weeks. Yeah, Darius Slay, man. Shout out to Darius Slay. I know we done made some comments about my man on here about when it comes to the tackling and stuff like that. But he has his podcast as well, and the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's going to lead me into my next topic. The Dallas Cowboys, right? And I'm gonna go back to whatever else I need to talk about, right? But the Dallas Cowboys are in shambles, right? A couple of things came out with them. Micah Parsons, Malik Hooker came out and said some things about Micah Parsons, talking about that he cares more about his podcast than he cares about the pass rush or whatever the case may be. And like comments like that are just letting you know that they got problems. We already knew they had problems, but they got issues. And then I also seen before I got on here today that CeeDee Lamb wants to trade if the deal doesn't get done this year. He didn't show up to mandatory minicamp. Was it minicamp? It was 1 to 2. He said he not showing up if he don't get paid, pretty much. So I don't know if their minicamp started or not, or their training camp started. But yeah, he said he's not showing up. So they got a lot of issues going on. They got players that need to be paid. Micah need to be paid. Dak need to be paid. And CeeDee Lamb need to be paid. And they ain't got no money, man. And depending on who they pay, they might lose somebody. So, you know, it seems like players are starting to get frustrated with the Cowboys organization. Some of the players in the locker rooms. So I don't know, man. Their season ain't looking too bright right now. But we'll see how that unfolds as the season goes on. So, excuse me. But I also wanted to, before I got off of here, I also wanted to talk about, like I said, I think I might have said it earlier. I was sitting here watching Super Bowl clips, right? And I was watching Seth Joyner and Derek Gunn, and then I don't know the other guy's name, but I was watching their interview afterwards, after the Super Bowl, right? And I just was listening to some of the comments about, because if y'all, and I don't want to make this too long of a topic, but I'm only saying this for the simple fact that with bringing Vic Fangio in here, the problem that we had in the Super Bowl and the problem that we had last year was adapting to the offense, like presenting a different scheme each week. We were going out there, same scheme on the defense, you know, and it wasn't working. We're getting the ball thrown all over us. Nobody was making adjustments. Same thing in the Super Bowl. Nobody was making adjustments. Jonathan Gannon being, you know, he had some experience, but he didn't have a lot of experience. You feel what I'm saying? Maybe like a year or two, I forget. But he doesn't have a lot of experience, you know, on the defensive side of the ball. And then Shane didn't have too much. You know, he had experience, but not too much play calling. You know, I think it was probably like his first full year or second year or something like that. So, yeah, man. Well, at least with us, with the Eagles. So with that being said, coaching is going to be a very, very, and I think at this point now, it's going to be the defining factor for the Philadelphia Eagles season. As y'all know, I've been talking about I've been watching these press conferences over and over and over, and I'm like trying to just pick up different information, and then I'm going back watching old stuff, trying to compare the two. So maybe that's sometimes why these videos take so long to get put up here, because I'm trying to get this information and give it to y'all the best way I can. You feel what I'm saying? So I know last year, and like I said, the Super Bowl year, the defense Super Bowl year was good, but when you got to the Super Bowl, you know, when we were in the Super Bowl playing, it just fell apart. Couldn't get the pass rush, couldn't do anything like that. And Same thing with last year. Couldn't get the pass rush. There was pretty much no pass rush, and blitzing and things like that. But then listen to Vic Fangio and then listen to other people talk about Vic Fangio's defense.
We've heard a lot of people talk about your defense, but from your perspective, what are the most important elements of it?
Good players. And I'm not trying to be a wise guy with that, but we have a system that is versatile. We like to think that it needs to be versatile because every week you're facing different strengths of an offense, different schemes. So what you play in one week 10, 15 times, you may not play it all the next week. So you have to have a versatile system for the offenses today in the NFL. And what we'll eventually do is learn what our guys are best at. So I like to throw a lot at them early because I think one of the worst things you can do is come week 3, week 5, man, we could really use this scheme, but it hadn't been introduced to the players yet. Whereas if you introduced it to them in training camp and worked on it, when you pull it back out 3-4 weeks later, there's recall. So we'll throw a lot at them in training camp to see what best fits for them, what they're good at, and then try and whittle it down. But always keeping some stuff in the bank in case we need it at some point during the season.
About how adaptable it is, how they're looking for adjustments, how they can play different schemes. Me talking about what he said about throwing a lot at the players early to see how they respond to it. All those are great things to hear because, like I said, that defensive aspect, and I'm gonna talk about the offense in a different video, but the defensive aspect was one of our biggest problems in that Super Bowl and then last year. You can't let teams come out here and throw all over your defense, man. Excuse me. You can't give players so much so much off the line, like you're back off the line on players. You're not pressing up on players. That stuff can't happen. So I'm thinking with the talent, especially with the cornerback talent, they got a lot of younger guys, a lot of speed guys. I'm expecting to see some more press coverage. Don't know just yet, but these are some of my, I guess you can call it some of my thoughts of what I want to see when it comes to training camp with these the defensive players or the defensive scheme. Like I want to see some more press coverage, some man coverage. I know they're going to play zone predominantly, but I just want to see like how they make the different adjustments with these players because they have the talent now and they got the coaches supposedly. Like I do think Vic is going to be a decent coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think this was the aspect. And on both sides, I'll talk about the offense in a different video, but just staying with the defense, that his experience alongside of Clint Hurt, King and Christian Park and whoever else I didn't name is going to be a defining factor this upcoming season. I said before, it's probably a lot to ask for, but I really do got the Eagles winning the Super Bowl this year, not because they're my team, but just looking at the last 2 years about like how we lost the Super Bowl and how this past year unraveled on us, and I'm looking at the different like what could have went wrong, what went wrong here. My biggest thing was the coaching. So with me saying all that, I really do think that Vic Fangio and the rest of these coaches are going to get these guys, whip them into shape with the different experience levels that they have, combine all that together, and this is probably going to be one of the most dominant defenses we have seen in a long time. That's just my early synopsis on what I think the season's going to look like or training camp's going to look like. But you probably won't be able to see this when I'm talking about until the season starts. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up, man. I really do appreciate y'all watching my videos. If y'all could, please like, comment, and subscribe to always catch this vibe. And y'all already know, go Birds. I'm going to holler at y'all, man. Be safe. And also, have a happy 4th as well. I'm going to holler.